Hey tribe, it's Nixie Marie. You're listening to New Earth, a podcast where each week we explore the relationship between spirituality and sustainability and how these topics play an important role in the evolution of humankind. Together, we aim to remember our connection with Mother Nature to heal ourselves and save our planet. Hello, Earthlings. Thank you for being here on this journey as we create this new Earth together forever. I'm feeling pretty spunky today. I'm wearing my favorite earrings, my soul sister, ride or die for life, Brooklyn Gottlieb, which she's been on the podcast before. She started a rainbow earring line on Etsy and she makes them herself. And I'm wearing them today. I'm wearing the purple ones and I'm wearing my yellow dress and I just feel really good every time I put them on. So shout out to my girl, Brooklyn. She's been wanting to create her own business / creative endeavor for ever since I've known her. And I'm just so proud of her. So I'm giving her a loving shout out right now. Check out Rainbows by May Blue or just go over to Brooklyn Gottlieb and check her out because you got to wear some rainbow earrings. Anyways, this is not an ad. This is just how I feel today because of what I'm wearing. And I think that sometimes, when we throw on some color, it really enhances our vibe. So on today's episode, furthermore, we are deeping our dive into our cosmic voyage into the mind of a modern mystic, Sarah Poet, to explore her perspective on how our grid networks in our energetic bodies and the earth are interconnected. Speaking to anyone here who is listening that identifies as a woman today, we also discover and explore and share about how women's resources can shift and change for a new earth paradigm. And also, in the mind of a mystic, one often sees the magical nature in all things, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Sarah has been able to see beyond this consumerism and need for things that we're often victims of in this world. And she sees the programming that we can tap out of and reprogram our subconscious mind to gain back our personal sovereignty in a world that is often fighting for its attention. So Sarah is a former school principal turned modern medicine woman and mystic, healer and teacher. She assists modern professionals on their awakening path so that they can fully experience spiritual, financial, and energetic sovereignty to be a unified leader in today's world. I'm very excited for this podcast. We kind of go all over the place with this topic, but as one mystic to another knows that it's often hard to really put into words how we see the world. So I love the way Sarah sees everything and how she eloquently puts all of the topics that we explore today. And before we get into the interview, I just want to remind you all, we're still offering free mandala stickers to anyone who writes us a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. My goal is to get to 300 reviews by the end of this year. So please help me and help the podcast do this. Send your screenshot to your in your review. DM us over on IG at New Earth Podcast, and that's spelled NU Earth Podcast, as you all know. And announcement, I'm also hosting a free 7-day clutter clearing challenge, which I challenge you to say that 15 times very fast. Clutter clearing challenge, clutter clearing challenge, clutter clearing challenge. Oh my gosh. And that begins on September 7th, this next month. It's actually during Virgo season, which feels incredibly appropriate. I have created a simple rainbow decluttering method that helps you sort, get rid of, and organize your space, and all in a simple 7-step method. And what you're going to gain during these 7 days is an understanding of what your clutter is telling you, because there is a message in your mess, how to declutter throughout the week, feelings of peace and harmony inside your home, create an ease of money flow, and invite much more deep, restful sleep into your life. I know that's often something that many of us struggle with. And bonus, your registration also enters you into a giveaway. This challenge is hosted by my company, Clarity. And at the end of the challenge, we will be selecting one person who completed all 7 days of the challenge to be gifting a super solid dish soap starter kit. So if you guys haven't heard about my company, Clarity, head on over to the link in the show notes to check it out. But all the information is on the page where you can register for this free 7-day clutter clearing challenge. And I'm really excited to take this voyage with you. Again, that starts September 7th. So we have a couple weeks before we kick off the challenge. And I hope that you guys join. As many of you know, I'm also a feng shui practitioner. So I'm sneaking that into the podcast right now, just so y'all can join me over there. All right. Why don't you guys grab some cacao if you're just listening to this without driving? You're at home, grab some cacao, tea, matcha, maybe it's evening time, pour some wine, whatever treat you can invite yourself into. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We have a lovely guest on today, and I'm very excited to see what we get into, as usual. I'm sitting with a lovely Sarah Poet. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nixie. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we were just kind of riffing on our story, our life, and where we are in the world, and kind of like why and what we're doing. And I think with you coming on and being able to really bring back the energies between the feminine and masculinity, and like unifying that for this new earth, I think it's going to be a really good conversation. So welcome. Before we get started, I want to ask you these questions. We were just talking about you living in Asheville, North Carolina, and being connected to the mountains. So what do you do to really connect to the land that you live on?
So I recently got a puppy, and this puppy is so joyful. And my son, who's almost 12, before we got the puppy, because I felt it coming, but then I just decided to look, and there she was, right? And I recognized her, and we said yes. And he started calling her the prosperity puppy. And I didn't even know that my 12-year-old son knew what prosperity meant, so I was asking him about it. And so he was obviously channeling something, as these children do. And so I've been with that inquiry, what is prosperity puppy about? What is this puppy here to show us? And I think that we're going to be talking about these new earth, codes of prosperity in the new earth today, obviously. And so I get out with this puppy now, and the puppy's pretty shy. So we go deep into the woods, early weekend mornings, 7 a.m., church on a Sunday. And we go into the woods so that there's no one else around. And this puppy is just free to go and brings so much joy, and in that frequency of prosperity. We're in the deep woods in these gorgeous quartz-filled mountains, and she's just running, you can't help but smile. So that's what I've been up to this summer.
That's a fun little journey you took us on, visually. I just saw you running around in the field with your puppy. And, I think that's a really great way to connect to the earth, is just have animals, and be able to go out and let them run free, remind you how to run free and connect. What is it? What are the summers like out there in Asheville?
It's pretty gorgeous. I mean, the mornings, like you can tuck on a sweater and get outside before the sun really hits, and it's still cool enough to do that. And
Mm,
then in the day, it's like really hot, but it's not like a wet hot. It's sweet. Um, but the animals for sure. I have two cats as well. And it's really a part of this conversation about how I connect to land, and how I have been connecting to these mountains because I've moved a lot in the last few years. And I found myself this January moving into an apartment complex, which I totally never thought I would do. These places are like eyesores in these mountains. I've lived here for over a decade and I've judged them, quite frankly.
mhm.
But then, life was changing and I had to move rather quickly. And I moved into this apartment complex. And so my cats aren't getting that outside connection right now because I want to keep them
Yeah.
safe. And so I've really been looking at this, like, how are we impacted, like in our animal nature when we're not getting into nature, and how are the animals impacted? But then how are we all doing so much better together when we are together? Like
Mm,
my family is definitely made fuller with these animals for sure.
mhm, mhm. That's a really interesting point to make, bringing us into and I think about this often when I see animals in cages. We're essentially putting our animals in these kind of boxes in a way, but I think it's beautiful to kind of just tap into, if you put yourself in their shoes, what would it feel like?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a very, very interesting thought to ponder on. And I think I think when we put ourselves in the mindset that, we are nature, we are a part of these beings, and we can really connect to them in that way, then we have a better understanding of, what it's like to be put in a cage, or what it's like to be felt like we can't go outside. And yeah, it's kind of relative to also to where we all are right now, in the world. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I think one really awesome thing that has happened in this last year, and I know that I saw it in these mountains where I live because there are so many opportunities to get outside, is that people, because we couldn't socialize in public places, people went to the mountains.
Hmm. Yeah.
They got outside, which is so cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been, I mean, pretty much just immersing ourselves mostly in nature. And I think that, nature speaks to me in a lot of ways. And I'm sure you are also feeling that by being in these mountains. Do you feel like there's anything specific, like a plant or an animal that's really been speaking to you? And what do you think they're saying?
Wow, what a big question. So for me right now, it's more the mountains themselves and like the earth grid lines and ley lines and some big information that I think is transpiring on the planet, related to feminine and masculine. And so that really started for me. I moved out of the city in Asheville, at the end of 2019, sold my house and moved to the country, and moved on this really sweet piece of land that had like a river and a cave. And I just got to go deep into, like, yes, a rewilding, but also this like feminine nourishment space, and just really like recollect. And then that's when COVID hit. And so, I live my life in this space of deep listening, and really it's a soul journey of my own soul reclamation, which has a lot to do with my tie to the earth, really. And so I began like hearing information about like diamond earth frequencies and the earth grids. And I would have to look up what was going on because I was just getting little snippets here and there of these things. But it's really changed my life in the last, year and a half, to be with this. And so in some ways, it feels like it's the mountains themselves, like the rock, the earth, and potentially some lineage pieces that I have with these mountains in particular. Um, but that's what I'm listening to, and I'm having to listen in new ways, and I would say curious ways, sometimes frustrating ways, because I moved to this apartment complex from this really, really gorgeous piece of land that I had a really deep connection with. But I was living with a previous partner. And then he asked me and my son and my animals to leave. And so it was really hard because I had really fallen in love with the land. I had really fallen in love with that land. And there were a lot of really sacred things going on, which was part of the reason why he asked us to leave, because it was like freaking him out that I was seeing all of these things that I was seeing, and like talking about these ascension processes. And he was like, this is not working out. And so being in the apartment complex is curious, because I think the soul takes us on these wild rides sometimes where we're like, why are we where we are in this moment, even geographically? And so to be, on a second floor, and there's more construction going on outside my bedroom window, and a place like this doesn't really respect the environment and the earth that it was built on. And so I'm always asking, why am I here? Why am I here in this space? And what is mine to do? And then I'll make, offerings of prayers, of hands on the earth early in the morning when I'm outside with the puppy, of just really appreciating like the mountains and the backdrop. And then, I don't know. I don't know if I'm here for like atonement for the fact that this big apartment complex is built in the first place. Right now I'm doing a little bit of grid work with like the 4 directions, but it's curious, this soul walk, as it's unfolding. It's like, oh, now I find myself here. What's going on?
Yeah. So, well, I think you're really speaking to, well, first of all, mountain energy is incredibly powerful and supportive, right? I mean, I work with feng shui, so I'm always working with the elements, and even your beautiful backdrop behind you that's got the mountains and the energy. I remember I was sitting on my sailboat and we were at this place called Puerto Escondido, and we're immersed by these mountains that actually from Mexico extend all the way out to Canada to like the Sierra Nevada mountains. And I just felt this energy of like stability and strength and overwhelming beauty. They're just these mighty forces. And when you're speaking on the subject of, being somewhere that maybe we don't want to be, or we didn't intend to be, I think you just speak to the truth that we're always being guided to wherever, we're meant to be. Doesn't matter whether we want to or not. Sometimes we don't even know why we're brought into a specific space. And so many of us that are in the more light worker space or are here to be of service get brought into, and it reminds me of this thing that I always remember. I can't remember who told me, but they're like, when you're a lighthouse and you are basically this beautiful like moth of a light, and then it's like you see like the bug catchers, like all the bugs just want to be attracted to the light, right? Like you're just the light, and all these bugs and all these things want to be attracted to you. And so you have to remember, like, as a lighthouse, you're going to be guided to be the lighthouse, and no matter where you are. So I think that's for anyone that's kind of in that space. Cause don't we all just want to live on the land and be feet in the earth, and really, really feel her. But that isn't reality. And that's, I think, what the conversation of what this new earth looks like. How does it feel? How can we co-create it? Sometimes it might look like skyscrapers with more plants and having this beautiful building that is living in harmony with the earth and is fully sustainable for people, because we have a mass population of people here. There's no way that we could ever really get to, I think, that space. Maybe we can, I'd like to think that we could, but I think that really speaks to anyone, in that phase of their life.
Absolutely. I would love to share a story here if I may.
Yes, please. I know you're quite the storyteller.
I think that there is something about telling stories, and everyone can pick up the little piece that's for them inside of a story. And so thank you. But yeah, the not knowing why you are in a place while you're in it. Just last week I had clarity in hindsight about this deeper layer of why I was on this piece of land. And, I want to say the man's land to share where I'm talking about, but there's a part of me that doesn't want to say the man's land, because that's a part of what we were working out, this like idea of ownership of land, but that's kind of something else.
Yeah.
And so, when I was there, and I'm telling this story too, because if anyone is listening and they have these kind of pings, like these light worker pings to do things like move rocks or like pick up this and put it there, and it's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? But so I was living on this piece of land, invited to live with this man and in partnership. And the mountain was full of quartz, and just over the mountain from his property was a quarry that was like very, very devastated. And they wanted to put in an asphalt plant into the quarry. So what environmental degradation had already happened, like it would have gotten way worse, right? And so when I first began dating him and I would step onto this land, it was very clear to me one day that I was supposed to go to the land and put my feet on the land and say the words, I am here. Like I was letting something know, I am here. And I'm going to bookmark that and get back to that in a moment. But so I said that, and then I knew that I was there for some kind of reason, because I kept getting this guidance to build quartz grids on the land. And from like one of our very first dates, I took this handful of quartz and I said, just intuitively put this around your house. And he was like, oh, fun. She's a witch, let's play. That's what he thought at
just
first.
Begins.
Right. And so over the time that I lived there, I would get this instruction to move these big quartz pieces that were just like popping up out of the earth everywhere, move them into a grid formation on the land itself. And there was a span of like 7 acres. So all over this 7 acres, I was building this quartz grid. And I remember one day, like we were going to go on vacation last summer, and I had this big pile of quartz, and it's dusk, and he's like coming out. He's like, what are we doing? He's like, we're moving rocks right now. I'm like, yeah, we're moving rocks right now. He's like, it's got to be done right now. I'm like, yeah, right now. That's what the instruction says. So I'm moving them into the directions, right? And it was really clear. A lot happened before I went, because when he had kind of backed out of the sole contractor, it was finished, there were a lot of instructions from the land and also from my soul and the indigenous connections to the land that I can go into if you'd like. But one of the things was like, you're not done with these grids yet. And so I kind of kept having to move these quartz pieces around the land and do some other ceremony. And so that was January 2021 when I left this land. And just the other morning, I was in meditation outside with the mountains before sunrise, like I do here in the mornings, and got this ping, this information that I had certainly been connecting in that healthy piece of land in with the land of the quarry, which I had known I was doing, but that land had definitely been overtaken by some dark energetics, right? And so I had been doing this earth work and this feminine reclamation work over to the quarry. And as of right now, and everyone listening can just like put up a prayer of light right now, but as of right now, the asphalt plant is still at bay. It's still not permitted, or like they haven't begun building. And so I just got this like ping, we need to make devotion to the Divine Mother, like with this land and on the land. And so I sent a text message. I don't know if it was received, but I was like, leave flowers to the Divine Mother on the land. And he was probably like, oh my gosh, woman, you're so crazy. But for everyone listening, you can just be like, yes, that place in North Carolina, like let the reconnection of those feminine earth grids, if we reconnect those, then this land can begin to rejuvenate rather than experience this further depletion, which was the goal the whole time. And I think that was part of the reason I was there, like if not the whole reason I was there, which was kind of a pain in the ass for the human me to experience that. I definitely learned a lot from it, but it was a part of my soul journey for sure to have my feet and my family on that piece of land doing that feminine reclamation work and earth grid work for the time that I was there. So we never know exactly why, or like we feel the pings, move the rocks, put it here, put it there.
Yeah. And
we're building something.
It goes back to even just saying, that we're a part of nature, because we have to remember that prior to our times now in the Industrial Revolution and how we are so systematically programmed for consumerism, we were so deeply connected to the earth. And, you used the word crazy a couple times, and it's like, no, we were actually so in tune. We were, and it's just unfortunate, but we are changing that story, how we have been labeled, how we have been, pushed in the corner and said, that's weird, that's crazy, that's this, you're talking to rocks, you're touching rocks, you're doing this, and that's what this like reclamation, I think, really of the feminine way, and remembering even our ancient indigenous ancestors, they practice these traditions, and it isn't, crazy. It isn't, it's actually what the crazy thing is, the opposite of what we're not doing, right? Exactly. The crazy thing is that we're not talking to the plants. We're not talking to the rocks. We're not moving them. We're not listening. We're not putting our feet into the earth. That to me is what the new crazy gets to look like. Like, let's rephrase that. Right. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that you said, this is the reclamation of the feminine. And when we get the judgment of this is crazy, and that's usually, it's not gendered but it is along the lines of feminine and masculine. Right. And, a lot of my personal story and my personal experience has been reclaiming union frequencies. And so these relationships that I've gotten myself into with men for some deep, deep learning has been about like my reclamation of first feminine and then masculine, and watching that, like that judgment onto me of me being crazy is really because that man, and I don't mean judgment against like that human in this moment as I say this story to illustrate this point, because he's certainly not the only one. And he's like a kind-hearted human who actually works for sustainability, for environmental sustainability. But because that reclamation of the feminine hadn't happened like within him and within his own heart, he couldn't see the wisdom that I was bringing, or like what I was doing out there on the land, or why I live the way I live. And it appeared scary to him. Right. Like a level of crazy that he just wasn't comfortable with, because it was like not predictable, not inside of a box, and he really wanted to understand. So I think that speaks a lot to like a man's developing relationship with the feminine, almost as a spiritual practice, or like in his personal devotion, like I said, to the Divine Mother, whoever he is, in his relationship to the reclamation of, yes, the earth principle, but the feminine principle and the Divine Mother, like not just a woman and women's bodies, because we know that like men can really enjoy that, more easily or more readily. But if we want men to accept the whole and the range of the feminine, he's got to be willing to go to the reclamation of his own relationship to the divine.
My fellow Earthlings, I couldn't be more excited to share with you about a brand I have partnered with and also have fallen head over heels with. You all know I'm a sucker for anything that helps save the oceans. And well, combine that with handmade high quality jewelry made for mermaids. I mean, they had me at Shiloh. Leilani Shells is a brand beyond the jewelry. Jenny, the founder, grew up in Hawaii and as a young girl witnessed firsthand the destruction of the coral reefs. Seeing all her turtle friends disappear made her heart sink to the very bottom of the ocean. Motivated by what she witnessed as a young girl, she pioneered a jewelry brand that could directly impact the health of our oceans by partnering with Blue Corner Conservation to plant a coral reef with every purchase. I just received my Leilani shells, and when I wear them, it reminds me of my free inner sea goddess. Shop her gold shell collection and plant a coral reef today by visiting the link in our show notes. It's like you took me on quite a deep journey there. Kind of like, where do we even start, right? It's like as women, we are committed to, if we've signed up, and there's so many women that are listening, I know you guys and ladies, and it might not even be a woman per se, but it's that feeling of reclaiming and saying I'm in devotion and I'm here to serve this goddess or this feminine way so that it can be anchored down, so that it can be aligned with the frequencies that are supposed to be here right now. And then the men and masculinity, I mean, we're, not being very gender specific here, but it is moving out of the patriarchal paradigm requires, languaging that does invite specifics in the way in which that we are bringing masculinity to a place where it can be sovereign. And not everybody is there yet, right? Not everybody's aligned with that. So, we talked about the resources, like how women, specifically women right now, speaking to women that are listening, can really create, like, what resources can we have, can we utilize, can we turn to really be paradigms for the new earth and really allow for that masculinity, the patriarchal program, all these, the greed, the consumer, everything that is in our ways what we see as wrong with society today. Like what do you feel like I want to say this, like guiding, I'm seeing like a guidebook come through, like just these, lists of resources that we can use.
Beautiful. Well, I'll answer that at first with another story, if I may. So the resource is really ourselves. And that's why I shared that bit about speaking the words, I am here, is because I realized much later that what I was speaking was that I, Sarah, poet, am here in my sovereignty, in my embodiment, in my light body here on this planet, right? It didn't have to mean they're on that land, but I certainly went to that land for a major soul integration piece. But when this man changed his mind quite quickly after I had moved in, and I was invited to make a life there and to be with the land. And so I'd opened up garden space and like really made myself at home and fell in love with the land, like I mentioned. And when he changed his mind, excuse me, I saw a pattern, a pattern of feminine depletion that had kind of plagued my life. Like it had been present with my father. I had felt really, really depleted in my marriage. I had, and then this man was the third partner in 5 years that originally showed a devotion to the feminine and even a deep appreciation and understanding of the feminine, only to later be willing to absolutely deplete the feminine. And so I I was like, hold on, end of the road. I'm not doing this again. So whatever lesson I'm not learning, I need it now and I need it, before I leave. And so I wasn't in any kind of rush, in any kind of trauma response because I witnessed an original trauma response come up inside of my feminine body, like, well, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like an abandonment and a provision wound and like all of these fears that came up that were very, very familiar. And I was watching them and I was like, I'm not going to react through that. And I'm going to learn what I came to learn. And so this one area of the land, this little stream ran through it. And I believe there was a portal there to what I was calling a new earth. And I was in this area of the land, I'll call it the portal. And I let myself cry. I went there and I think I was like even on my knees and I was like, why do I continually feel this depletion? Like I am a woman. I have so many inherent resources. I'm a mother. I'm trying to bring this new information to the planet. Like, why can't it be easier? I'm not going into victim mode here, but just saying, wow, this is hard. And this is a continual depletion on my resources. So it would seem. And what happened, Nixie, was that these collectives of women, and every time I tell the story, my eyes well up because these collectives of women came forward from, I would say, star systems, indigenous women from the land. My lineage is in part Cherokee, and we were on Cherokee land. And women upon women upon women were just coming forward into my sight and from this portal and weeping with me and saying, yes, we understand depletion. And yes, we understand the depletion of the feminine, and then we have this quarry right there that's been absolutely raped and stripped. And so I was just with this immense collective of feminine energy, just mourning for the depletion that has been, of feminine and of feminine resources. And from there, a lot came forward about actual prosperity and actual regeneration of our energetic as the feminine, because I think I know in my experience, a lot of feminine reclamation and like the goddess work and all of that has an unspoken or like an underlay of trauma with the masculine still existing in that space. And so because we're women who have a trauma with patriarchal masculine or power over masculine, we're kind of outrunning that until we stop and we realize what I call, and what I learned in this time is like a fear of being consumed. So I call this the consumer program. And it's like the fear of the feminine resource being consumed and taken, which has been the lifeblood of the patriarchy, right? And not all masculine is created equal, right? Because masculine in and of itself is the protector of the feminine and would never consent to the feminine depletion, whereas the patriarchal masculine is the taker energy. And so in that separation matrix and that consciousness, we have, okay, if somebody can have the power and then another person can't, we're either, this is where I call the consumer program, because we're either fearing, it's like consume or be consumed. Either I'm not going to have it, or, you know, someone else is going to take it from me. And so I think we as women are often actually inside of that consumer program without realizing it. I would say all the time, like we're inside of that until we're not. And so it's breaking free of that, which is our own personal work around, you ask what we can do. It's like, if we get into relationship with our resources and look at like, well, where am I making decisions based on, am I afraid that I'm not going to be able to consume it? Am I afraid that I'm going to be consumed, a part of my energy consumed? And so anytime we're making behavioral decisions out of that consumer program, that's where we're actually perpetuating our own depletion in one way or another. I know that's like a little complex and out there, but it's like any self-worth work that I did, any feminine reclamation work that I did, heck, any masculine reclamation work that I did didn't matter until I broke the consumer program on me, because that's what's consenting to the depletion energetic. So to say, I am here and truly look at your energy, and to stop, you know, consuming for consuming's sake and all of that. I'm happy to go into that, but I'll pause here. But also like so as a woman, when we're afraid that we are going to be depleted, we act in certain ways. You know, we might consume more. Like I know one woman told me, you know, every time she gets her paycheck, she fills her pantry. And this could be old, like a lineage program that's like, you're not going to have enough. You're going to be depleted at some point. So stock up now. Right. But then in that buying of the filling of the pantries, she spent all of her food money like within days. And so she was actually depleting her own sustenance in the long haul. So the more we can change the energetics toward true sustainability of our own resources, body, money, energy, all of that, that's, I think, what creates the new earth paradigm of unity and prosperity for women and for all of us.
Wow. Yeah, I can relate to that on a lot of levels, especially just speaking to the consuming mind, the consuming trap, the consuming. I mean, we are constantly consuming. And that's, like I mentioned earlier, a result of this industrial mindset, this industrial revolution. You know, we were so excited, I think, as a species, to see the industrial revolution kind of take us into this new way. And now what is required of us is to pump the brakes, slow it down, and realize we've gotten over capacity of the consuming. And just speaking to your story with the woman and stocking up her pantry, you know, for me, we've been living on a sailboat for the last 9 months, and it totally changed the way that I consumed, right? I mean, I was pretty much not consuming for those 9 months. We're out at sea. We do have times where we have to do this big stock up because we're going to be out for 3 weeks. But I didn't have any direct correlation to malls, to shopping centers, to all these things that create that consumerism mindset, or just ways of being. And it was when we got to where we are now in Puerto Vallarta, and there's malls, and I was overwhelmed by the city, by the energy, and how quickly I would notice, because I went to go get my long story short, had to get my MacBook fixed. It got some water damage, brand new computer. Of course, you know, water damage, got to go to the mall, the only Mac store that's there. And it was a bit intimidating. And I thought, wow, this is so fascinating to watch and notice the level of mind and awareness where I want to just go shopping. I want to just go buy stuff now. Oh, I need that thing. Oh, there's the marketing, advertisement right in front of me. There's all the things that I think I need.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm not like anti-consuming anything. I mean, I love delicious food. I love, cozy clothes and like a comfortable place to live. And so it's not like an all or nothing thing, but for women, for anyone listening really, but so I started to teach this codex in a program and a download called Heartland. And as a part of Heartland, what we did was keep a consumption log. And so I'll just like throw that out there as an idea for everyone, because it's like down to, we can consume anything through a different through various mindsets. So I can want, for example, a piece of chocolate because that chocolate, I can take so much pleasure in one square of chocolate. Or I can, be in more of a consumer, program or mindset and like eat the like whole 2 bar peanut butter cups, like, just like back to back to back to back, like can't get enough.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I pay attention to is not like, is chocolate wrong? That's not it. It's, am I being in consumption because there's something else that wants to be satiated, or probably because there's a fear that's driving the consumption, like a fear. And it's so ironic how often the fear of not having something drives more consumption. Absolutely. I mean, when COVID hit, I didn't know what was going on. I listened to a friend who was like super scared about what was like grocery stores are going to shut down. The food system's going to shut down. And I went out and bought this like giant amount of meat, which I'm like not even really a meat eater, but I was like, okay, protein, I'm going to bake this big thing and put it in the freezer. And so I went into scarcity, and then I bought like 5 pounds of meat. Yep. And then I looked at that later and I was like, yeah, I was totally afraid.
I mean, we were all guilty of the scarcity in that way in some level, but I think it was a great opportunity to kind of, especially for those of us that have that, take time to really look at those programs and how we're operating and can stop and say, whoa, I was actually in scarcity there, or I was operating from a fear-based space and in fight or flight. Then we have that level of awareness and we can go, that part of us is so healthy. That's the fear that we should be responding to, is we don't know what's happening. The lion is chasing us. We might die. Let's run. If we didn't have that, that's why it was there. And there's a virus out. Okay, we need to go stock up and take care. And I think that says a lot about what fear actually is and how we can actually use it versus how it gets in the way and how much we avoid facing the fact that it's actually keeping us and holding us back from true sovereignty.
True sovereignty, true connection with ourselves, true connection with the earth, true intimacy. Yes. I mean, this program of consume, it's like consume or be consumed, is really ruling us way more than I think we realize. And so it's a huge tool for gaining back energetic sovereignty, which just means like, I think that I don't want to put pressure on with that saying of that phrase of energetic sovereignty, because it's like, are we ever completely sovereign in our energetic? No, but cleaning it up so that where we're exchanging energy has less and less and less distortion in it, is a beautiful goal.
Absolutely. And I really do, just going back to what you said about consuming, it's about how you consume, not so much that you can't consume, because that does get us also in scarcity too. We have to be mindful of, if we're talking about consumerism, don't feel guilty or feel ashamed because you had that couple slices of pizza or something. It's if you eat the whole damn slice.
Yeah.
Let's look at that. Let's look at that
Yeah.
part of it and kind of tracking. I just started a habit tracker and I hadn't used it in a long time because I started noticing certain habits just start to get a little too deep, okay, that one's taking, I'm doing a little too much of that. It's a little over consumption, a little over this. And I think tracking really helps because you can put down, like I mark a little red check mark if I do it, like the positive habits and the not so healthy habits. Yeah. And it just keeps me in check. I get to look at how am I feeling today? How am I, did what I did last night, is that affecting me today? How am I feeling in my body? And that's to me how we create an energetic sovereign body, because we have a choice. We can look at and take a overarching view of our energetic system.
Absolutely. And I think the point about how you're feeling is awesome, because that's what we're doing with this consumption log is, okay, the desire to consume something. So that's what you log first. The desire was there. Then did you act on it? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Then what was the feeling afterwards? Right? So if you're getting a true feeling of satisfaction, you're probably in integrity. If you're getting like actually that was gross, then you were in the consumer program, wow. Which I would say out of integrity with self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really powerful.
And it's not about judgment.
Yeah.
It's just like we want to clear our lives of these programs. I truly believe that.
Yeah, it's when we talk about new earth paradigms and anchoring in these new ways of evolution, I will say, is exactly this. We've got to clear the programs. And it's so wild too, to see how quickly we can clear the program and how quickly we can be programmed, right? Both of those things are a slippery slope in essence, where I notice if I'm listening to something for a long time, watching something for a long time that maybe isn't like my highest version of me, then I'm easily swayed into, my dream space will start to be affected. There's all these ways that my subconscious is starting to attune to that in which I'm consuming.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really getting into our energy field, which is maybe a whole other conversation, right. But it really is. And so a lot of, and I'm teaching this, I'll be teaching this in my membership space that's opening up, but energetic sovereignty is really about choice and declaration and practice. I mean, it's not, it's not loosey-goosey. It's not something that we can just be if we're not actually doing I don't want to say work, but if we're not actually being diligent about it, because there's so much going on in the world right now. And there really is, and I don't say this to produce fear, but there really is so much that is in place to hijack a light worker's path. And so, like this destroyer energy that was like coming through these men, that's like, I'll hijack your resources. I'll hijack your resources. That's a total destroyer program. It is not organic. It is not of God. It is like out to destroy. And so that's an energetic, it's an energetic that was like acting through these men, but we have these energetics that act through the media and act through, Hollywood and these programs that they're putting into media and things that we consume. Right. Exactly. And so if we're not paying attention to what we're consuming, how it makes us feel, and then declaring the sovereignty in our physical body, emotional, mental, spiritual, like in that energetic light body around us, and really connecting into source and into the truth of who we are, like doing that on a daily basis, then it's like we're being tossed about, in the ocean. We can't possibly be energetically sovereign if we're leaving it up to somebody else.
Yeah. And something that I always like to do when I feel like there's a lot of that energy that might take my own, or there's hijacking, or there's something that I just feel like maybe not as safe in a space. And this can be a tool for anyone really, is just to be in your, like, close your eyes and say nothing has power over me, and really be in your sovereignty and believe that and feel it. Because I really believe that fearing this energy that might take over, or something that comes in the body, like that alone can be very fear-based, and that's how they come in, right?
Yeah.
So to just know that you have sovereignty over your power and your body and your space. So when you say that and you declare it and believe it to be so, for me, it seemed to work, where I feel like I can be in any situation, and I have my power.
Yes, so beautiful. I'm so glad you said that. And that's that I am here piece.
Mm.
I am here.
Yeah.
And I say, I am sacred. I am sovereign. I am free. And when we are really reestablishing this, and the sovereign energetics are energetics of union. So as we're women or men or any gendered human, and we're exploring this path to unity, because I really think that's what it's all about, is unity and oneness rather than the separation. So as we're on that path, we can use, like you said earlier, the tools of the masculine, feminine, the words, the archetypes, the energies, and then and get ourselves back to union. But truly the energetics of union, like what makes up the light body architecture of a human that is in sovereignty, is divine balance in feminine and masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're kind of approaching it from different angles, because we can approach it with meditation, we can approach it with psychology, with the archetypes, with the spiritual practices. But at the end of the day, this I am here, I am sovereign energy is an energetic of union that we get to have as our birthright. And, we get to declare no more depletion, no more consumption, no more control over these resources, and doing this with and for the earth.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize this. I didn't realize that, as a woman, as I'm doing this work, and as I was working with women, as we're doing this work, we are healing the earth grids.
Yep.
Like we're repairing it in our bodies, and our bodies mirror the body of the earth.
Mm.
So you're doing this for the earth, for the collective, for the whole, like as you're claiming your own sovereignty.
Yeah, and our Earth Mother is actually, I keep hearing this, that she's in her own evolution of consciousness as well, which is why we're seeing so much rise to the surface, being cleared out, like all this mucky, dark energy and all of her old energy, she's also purging and clearing. And so with us, being connected to that, we're all creating that together, right? And as we connect to this frequency she's on, I think that's where for me personally, I feel her speak to me in so many ways. But the more that we tune ourselves to that frequency, the ear, the feeling, the visions, that's what I think she's really speaking to us. And if anyone is getting that call, I will say, then just listen.
Yeah, it could be heard and felt in so many different ways. And also the urge to heal you, and the urge to say no to perpetual depletion patterns. Right now, I'm really seeing this a lot with individual clients. It really is the wisdom inside of you declaring this no more depletion, no more consumption. And the feminine energetic that was used to fuel the patriarchy, like that was taken, that was siphoned, was held in like distorted grids. It was locked away. You could say like the dragon was like put in a cage,
Yeah.
And what I'm literally seeing in client sessions is when a woman is like, no more, and means it, to this depletion of the feminine energetic or the attacks on her system, she's simultaneously recovering the feminine from the trapped, like the distortions. I'm going to call it like the distorted grids, bringing it back. And that's how we're also like teaming with Mother Earth.
Yep.
So we're bringing the feminine back, and it doesn't just happen. Like, it doesn't happen outside of ourselves. Like this is what I say a lot of times to women is like, and again, any human, any gendered human, it's going to happen through us. All of this walk to union, all of this walk to sovereignty, into this new earth and the prosperity that's possible happens because of our individual paths. So those pings to be in the environment, or those pings to heal that trauma pattern, it is the evolution toward the new earth. Like it is the exact thing. Mm-hmm. Like you are doing it by living your life, which I didn't know for a long time. Yeah, I just thought that I was like trying to survive.
Right. And I think we want as humans, like our mind wants us to see the difference right away within that, instant gratification, which is very similar, I think, to what you're speaking on with the consumer program. It's all in that operating system. And when we, like you said, when we really just stop and don't consent to that anymore and believe it and feel it and, and feel it in our bones. If you look at the correlation and the connection between what you're saying with feeling depleted, look at how Mother Earth is depleted.
Yeah.
So it's all connected. And that's what I really started to see too these last couple of years when I did my work and I was starting to feel more empowered in my space and I started to feel more connected to the earth. And I was like, there's this piece here that's not quite clicking, I think, for all of us to see. And maybe we don't all need to see it because it's that physical need to understand. But I think it's a just innate knowing that when you do your work and you use your discernment, you use your know, you use your power in your space as a woman to reclaim yourself, that you are also supporting the healing of the planet.
100%. 100%. I also like to share, to normalize, because I really want to encourage us to embrace this path, especially now with what the earth is going through and what's available right now on the earth. Because there is a lot of support, like on planet, off planet support that's here right now. But I recently went through a test. I'd love to hear if you had to go through a test to kind of truly live some of these things, because I was downloading all these prosperity codes, I got to delete consumption, okay, and then I downloaded Heartland and I taught Heartland and it was amazing. And I was on track to double or triple my earnings from last year. And then I went into a test around depletion. It looked a lot like it used to look, yeah. And it's oh, right. When we learn these things and when we start to embody these things, it's not just all roses. Mm-mm. Because, when it's easy. But I think as the earth reminds me, especially looking right outside here, it's this apartment complex and all of the construction outside, it's we've got a long way to go. I mean, there's a lot that has happened, and we're the creation of a new earth is not, I think the codes are some of the easiest most beautiful, glorious information I've ever received, but changing my own paradigm inside of myself to actually live in that and embody that and live in the new earth, that's hard for a human.
Yeah, it's not an overnight process.
No.
You don't just wake up and go, I am the new earth now. I am embodying every frequency.
Yeah.
I think many of us are being tested right now. The test to be walking what we are teaching is a huge one I'm seeing within the collective space this last year. The reconstruction and the recreation of who we are without those programs is a huge test in and of itself, because we've got to step into this new version and commit to it, which is always my biggest opportunity and biggest challenge. So when, we're talking about stepping in and embodying these things, every piece of us is going to be tested, because we have to know, can we hold this frequency? Yeah. And that was something with, I think, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was along the lines of, when you call forth that which you want and you desire, can you maintain it? Can you hold it? Can you hold that vibration? Can you hold that frequency? Because I always feel like when I'm like quantum leaping or I'm tapping into a new reality, I am then challenged by wanting to go back into that comfort zone and just go back.
100%. And then this is where I'm noticing the consumption going up in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I'm all about the new earth paradigm of like resources in the hands of women, and women knowing the value of our resources and being in integrity with those resources. And like my personal consumption of coffee has gone way up recently. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what am I doing? I've kicked this habit. I know that it's not good for the nervous system. Like, I know that this is the very thing that destroys any sustainability in my energy. Yep. What am I doing? Well, I'm being tested, and I'm not necessarily passing the test with flying colors. Yeah. Because I went back into the consumption.
Right. It's okay too. I mean, that is the dance. Okay. It is the dance. And I couldn't relate to you more about the coffee conversation. I gave up coffee. It's probably been, I don't know, but it's like a consistent thing I've done. Like, oh, this isn't serving me. It totally messes with my energy. And I start to feel so anxious, so much anxiety, but I love coffee. You know what's been really serving me is now I have, it's called, gosh, it's going to come to me. It starts with a K, I believe. It's a coffee alternative, and it's like a yellow branding with turquoise. And
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I want to say Karma, but it's not called Karma. I'll send it to you later. But the coffee alternative thing, and looking into teas, and I'm drinking cacao right now, and just being a little more conscious of that helped so much. But I've gotten in that, like, oh, I just want to have some right now, and then I'll do it, and I totally regret the decision, and that's where I think we can give a basic example on what you're discussing of how we feel when we're out of integrity with our body is because it didn't make me feel great. I wasn't riding on a high.
Right.
So, and that's just a basic human example, Yeah. I could totally relate. Totally relate to that. But we are human, we are.
Yeah.
We came here to be human.
The personally looking at the question, okay, I've done so much with this feminine and masculine reunification. I'm teaching this kind of like King Temple, which is like a Hieros Gamos temple space right now of true unification. And that capacity that you're talking about for holding the new, I think another way to say that is like the feminine's capacity to hold the masculine, like that, if we can use the word penetration, but it's a penetration of the energetic. And so we want our healthy feminine to say yes, because for so long, if we're fearing the actions of the masculine in a patriarchal power over paradigm, then the feminine system won't be able to take in and hold the expanded energetic of a bigger receptivity. So as we want these new levels for ourselves, that's why I continue to talk about feminine and masculine. Maybe when some people would say like, I don't think we need to use those words anymore, it's divisive. And I'm like, no, it's not, because